Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people.
Stop. Don't stop.
They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
Good day, everybody. Hi, this is the unstoppable Frankie Picasso, and I am really excited about my guest today, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. But first, do you mind if I share a little success story with you? Thank you, because it's mine. And by the way, if my voice sounds a little lower and huskier and maybe slightly nasally, you can handle it. I'm sure you can. I have been fighting something for the past week, but hopefully I am on the mend. I wanted to thank you listeners who listen to me over at Frankie Sense and More. Why? Because you amazing, wonderful people have managed to have TogiNet place a congratulatory banner on Frankie Sense's homepage. It says, "Congratulations, you have over 500,000 downloads the month of November." Woohoo! I mean, thank you. And here's the thing. When I began to see the trend, I reached back out to TogiNet because, to be honest, I started to feel bad for my Mission Unstoppable guests. I wanted them to enjoy the same great benefits that my Frankie Sense guests are getting. And so I asked TogiNet, I spoke to the higher-ups and I said, come on, guys, please, let me bring Mission Unstoppable over here too. These folks have been through so much stuff. They have so many lessons to teach, and I really need this show over here and to be exposed to as many people as possible. And of course, they're so wonderful. They said yes. And so now I'm a happy mama. 2 of my kids are under the same roof. Thank you for that. And I just really am just so pleased. So thank you for listening to that little blubber there. I don't know. Anyway, are you ready to go on a Mission Unstoppable with me? Yeah, I'm sure you are. As I said earlier, today we're going to meet another of the unstoppable ones. Now, fair warning. Hold onto your hat, tether yourself down, because a whirling dervish is about to enter the studio, and I guarantee you, if you don't batten down your hatches, you might be whisked away. And one thing is for sure, if you manage to hold on for the next 60 minutes, life as you know it will never be the same. My guest today is Marnie Swedberg. Now, our Marnie has survived fires, floods, a burglary, tornado, lightning strike, numerous accidents, sinking boats, struggling business, ambulance rides, and I believe in my heart that if she was anywhere near a volcano, that would have made the list too. Now, talk about busy. This lady gets more done in a day than most people in a month. Do you have 20 seconds? Marnie manages a family restaurant and retail store, hosts numerous websites that generate millions of hits every year. She's a web hostess of womenspeaker.com, the largest online directory of its kind in the world, where she connects and influences and encourages millions of women each year. Now, did I mention she's the author of 13 books, including Minute Memoirs and Capturing What You Can in the Minutes You Have? Those titles sound so appropriate, don't you think? Marnie hosts her own radio show, is a sought-after public speaker, has presented to audiences big and small, and even a few that you might have heard of, Pillsbury, AT&T, among others. Oh, did I mention? Yeah, she's a mentor to over 12,000 leaders from 30 countries worldwide. Now, where does she get this stuff? Are you still with us? Great, because you better meet Marnie before she flies off to another engagement. She is the poster child for the comeback behavior, possibility thinking, and profound faith. Please welcome Marnie. Hi, Marnie. Welcome.
Hi, Frankie. Hi, everybody. I'm tired just listening to that.
I know, it's so cute. Oh my gosh. Is absolutely amazing. Now, idle hands and all that. I can only imagine what you're doing while you're speaking to us. What are you doing?
Oh,
Marnie?
You know what? Oh my gosh, I'm 100% with you.
Oh,
see,
perfect.
And that's the thing is that I always say I'm a jet plane. I'm created like a jet plane. So I'm either flying fast and far, or else I'm flat on the tarmac getting ready for my next flight. Those are my two. I don't idle well at all. But when I'm with you, I'm 100% with you, and everything else just stands down. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking about Frankie and my audience today, and how excited I am to be here.
Nice. Marnie, Mission Unstoppable has had many guests who come here who have found themselves going through traumatic events, like many of the ones that you went through. And the universe, after they're saying the universe, why me, Lord? What is it? And then they found through this event, this wake up, let's say, their spirituality, and whether it was a religious spirituality or a New Age spirituality, they found this to be a wake up call to their higher purpose of sorts. Now, you have been through what many might term numerous wake up calls. And so I have to ask you, are you hard headed? Why does God keep knocking on your door?
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, see, now there's two kind of ways to think about this, and there is a whole thinking out here that if something bad happens to you, you brought it on yourself. And so therefore you better change your mind and get your act together so bad things quit happening to you. Mm-hmm. And I believe that that's sometimes true. Obviously, every action has a consequence, and so that's true in that way. But definitely, I don't think that no matter how well I could get my act together, that all bad things would stop happening to me. So I never take it personally when something like lightning strikes or a tornado hits. I mean, I don't take those things personally, and I don't worry about trying to change my behavior to change the lightning strikes. But what I do is I do try to find the joy in it, and that's really what makes the difference between letting those kinds of things cripple you, make you bitter, just stop you from even walking outside your door every day, to making those things actually give you energy and power to go forward. I mean, you can turn it either way.
Absolutely. So maybe, do you mind going back to one of those events? I'm curious, where were you during the tornado? Where were you?
Oh, the tornado was, you know what, and I really did learn. I really did learn with the tornado. So what happened was that we've had a few tornadoes up here. I'm living on the Canadian border in northern Minnesota, and so tornadoes aren't real frequent, but we've had a couple, but they never amount to anything, and so you don't really pay too much attention to them.
Right.
Well, this particular tornado, the kids at the restaurant had called and said they were scared and they wanted to go to the shelter. And I was like, okay, but business doesn't stop. When you have a tornado warning here, everybody just keeps doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I just drove over to the restaurant, and I sent the kids over. And I've seen tornado chasers, so I know you just get in a refrigerator or something, you'll be all right. So that's what my plan was. I was just going to get in the walk-in fridge, and I was just going to, get through it that way. If it came my way, and you can hear a tornado coming, so what's the big deal? So I'm standing there in the restaurant all by myself. There's no traffic on the highway, nothing, and I'm standing there and I'm listening, and on comes the the weather announcer, and he says, take cover. If you're in this area, take cover right now. The reason this storm is so dangerous is because there were 3 major storm heads colliding over our small town all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And he said, this is serious. Take cover right now. And all of a sudden I realized, Frankie, that I didn't want to die in a refrigerator. I'm like, I'm going home. So I head out the door. I get in my car. Idiot. I'm driving now, and the tornado is coming right there. And so I'm driving, and I come around this corner, and I could see it before I even got there. I'm like 3 blocks from home. I come around this corner, and the sky was turning, and it hit my car, dropped my car down, and all of a sudden hailstones just not being dropped on my car, being thrown at my car. And I'm like, I just have 2 blocks. And I got home, pulled in, grabbed Toto, and went down to the basement and got in the closet, and we made it through. But honestly, that tornado missed our house and our 2 businesses by just blocks. It was touching them. My husband and the boys were over in the retail store at the time doing the floors, and the one son says, hey, I think a shed just flew by. So there's nothing to do. Anyway, we survived it and we made it through. But honestly, we sometimes get a warning and we don't take it seriously. That was my day to get a second chance, my day to realize that if I ever get a warning in the future, I need to really take it seriously and not minimize the potential of what's coming, but to really look at it seriously and make a better choice.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. I was only through one tornado in my life. I lived in Louisville, and I was about 15 or 16, and I'd never seen a tornado before. We had just moved there, and my mom's going, get to the basement, get to the basement. I go, no, I want to see it. I got to see it, you know?
Right,
but everything was quiet. Everything goes quiet before a tornado.
Yeah.
You know, the birds, everybody, like, there's nothing going on. And then, boom. And it did. It missed our house, took the roofs off every other house, and, you know, did all that stuff, like you said. But it is scary. But, you know, it's almost an analogy for life. You know, you said there's a warning. And, you know, we have our own intuition, too, that gives us early warning systems, and we don't always listen to it. And the universe comes back at you and say, hey, you didn't listen. You know, we want you to hear this, right? And on you go. And so it is a good plan to start to learn to listen to those.
It is, and it is really important. And what was interesting about this particular tornado, because it was so nasty, it literally flattened everything in its path. There was nothing, even concrete buildings. It completely flattened everything.
It's amazing how wind can do that.
Not one person died. The police had literally gone into places and gotten people out, and I mean, it was an amazing testimony of what a little notice can do for people. And when you have something in your life, a red flag, I call them red flags. I just like to, you know, when you see just a little something that you think, boy, it just doesn't seem right, just take a moment and try to analyze, you know, what could I do differently here? What should I change?
How big is your town?
It's really small, 1,700 people, located 90 miles from the nearest Walmart or 140 miles in any direction from a mall.
And you still live there.
I know. You know, but that's actually, Frankie, that's one of the reasons why I get so much done. Our business is both. It is. I'm not.
It's like she has this empire in this little 1,700 population town.
I know. It's so funny. But you know what? Our businesses literally are 1 mile away from our house. You know, we make a little triangle, 1 mile, 1 mile, 1 mile. Yeah. And I can get to any business within, 2 minutes, or if a train comes, 5 minutes. You know, so I mean, that's really literally, it's like walking across, an office complex. That's how long it takes me to get to my businesses from my home office. And so I'm able to be extremely effective and use my time very well because of my location.
And have you lived there your whole life? Do you know everybody in town?
Haven't. No, 30 years. Grew up in Minneapolis.
Wow.
Huge culture shock. Yeah, huge culture shock coming here. But love it. It was a great place to raise kids. Everybody watches out for everybody else's kids. And, the kids don't get away with much at all because everybody sees everything. And no, it's a wonderful place to raise kids. Just loved having our kids here. And then along the way, bought some businesses here. And so that's what keeps us.
That's amazing. We're going to hear more from Marnie in just a moment, but we're heading off to a break. Just give us a second. Stay tuned and stay close. You aren't going to want to miss to hear what this lady has to say.
Don't stop.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
Congratulations on being the proud owner of an adorable, soft, cuddly, sweet-smelling, smiling, cooing, hungry, tired, gassy, screaming little bundle of joy. So now what? Where's the owner's manual for this thing? Where are my instructions? Right here. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com. Infant care specialist Blythe Lipman has worked with babies for over 20 years and works extensively with new parents, providing workshops, in-home visits, tips, and daily phone calls to ease those frazzled nerves. With Baby and Toddler Instructions, you can get the advice you need on how to survive and enjoy your baby's first year. For more information on Blythe and how she can help you, go to babyinstructions.com. From 32 ways to stop a baby from crying to 14 ways to get a baby to eat and so much more. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com.
And we're back, and thank you for sticking around because we're here too. And we're back here with Marnie Swedberg. Marnie, you were telling us about the hurricane, or the tornado, excuse me, but you also have a flood story that's kind of interesting. Do you want to tell us about that?
No.
No?
We had a county-wide flood. And this flood, Have you ever been through one, Frankie?
I saw the one out in Alberta. I haven't been in it, no, but I watched them closely. It's pretty scary. Looks like.
Yeah, and you never really realize the power of water. I just, I remember afterwards taking the kids out, just this one spot in the highway, and there was a highway, and then all of a sudden, no highway, just a gaping big hole where the highway was, and nothing there. But it's terrifying to watch, and it was a rainfall that went for 17 hours. It just poured rain from the sky for 17 hours, and that's why it flooded. And to just sit and watch it, and just watch, and just sit and look out the window, and now you're not looking at rain hitting ground anymore. Now you're looking at rain hitting water that used to be ground. You can't even see your ground anymore, and just wondering when this is going to stop. Is this going to stop in time? Is it going, what's going to happen here? My husband ended up, because he was working for a business, he's in management at a business 20 miles away, he had ended up going over there, and that's when our home flooded, when he was gone. And it was so scary, and it was just, just a lot of stress and trauma. But it was, we ended up not having as much damage as a lot of people. Some people in just very close to us, some people had up to 5 feet on their main floor. Some people in a different city close by, it was up to the second floor of their home.
Wow.
And we just had basement damage, and it was not bad to get through. Floods are really terrifying, though. I think when you recognize, again, the philosophy that if you do everything right, nothing bad will happen to you. You have no power over this at all. You are just an observer. And in a situation like when it just keeps raining, there's not like a lot of, it's not like when that a dam is, getting close to breaking or something.
Sure.
There's it's not the same kind of a situation. So you do just really sit and watch, and it's, you feel very out of control. And I think with all of the traumas that happen in our life, I think that's maybe the main thing that we experience is a sense of loneliness and of being out of control. We really like to feel like we're in control. And the sense of loneliness comes from that no one experiences your traumas the way that you do. You have your own unique history that comes into each traumatic event that comes your way. And so you always are going to feel very lonely and alone going through it, even when you're with other people. You'll experience a difference.
But isn't there also a hyper sense of like, I'm alive. It's an intense, hypersensitive, focused. You're in the event, the trauma right now, and there's this exhilaration too of I'm still alive. I'm still here.
Absolutely. And you're, I think that the mind is processing so many things at once. It's one of the reasons why I hope that our healthcare system can soon come up with a better way. Like when someone is, realizes they have like maybe a lump or cancer or something like that, and then they make them wait for 2 weeks. The body does go into, like you say, a hypersensitive state when there's trauma or drama of any kind. And that's okay for a short period of time, but like adrenaline, if you stay in that state for too long, it really does hurt your health. And so it's hard on your body to stay at that level of anxiety for very long at all. So, I totally agree with you that in those moments, the tension is super high in your body. And you can do deep breathing and different things like that to help release that. But the reality is your subconscious is fully aware of what's happening, and you can only do so much to relieve that. Yeah.
I was talking to a woman on a show a couple shows ago, and she had been through, some very traumatic things in her life. And one of the things that we had talked about was this idea, why do bad things happen to good people? And, her philosophy was, it's not that bad things are happening to good people, and it's not that God doesn't intervene. It's that, we're here, like just like with our children, right? Like you can only do so much. They have to help themselves, right? And if he doesn't intervene, it's because we have choices to make, and we have, things to go through, and it doesn't mean he doesn't love us, and it doesn't mean that we don't love our children when our children go through things. And we say, you know what? We can't be there to baby them their whole life either. So it's interesting.
And there's always something good. There's always something good that can come. And you may not even see it in your lifetime, but there is always something good that can come. And that's one of the things I said to somebody yesterday. I don't have to know for sure that this is going to work. I just have to have hope that it may.
Right.
That's kind of where I live. I don't always know. Like, even if I have full faith that something, I've asked for God that this is really going to happen, I don't have to have it happen that way. I recognize that I'm not God and that He is. And so I just can say, but I'm going to ask with all of my heart. I'm going to go for this, and we're going to see what happens. And that's where a lot of the energy comes from, to keep going after many bad things happen to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've certainly had your own unique bout of badness, let's say, but you've also had amazingly great things happen to you. And, you're widely successful running your empire from, this little town. and one of the things that you do is you teach women success principles and time management. And, nobody is probably busier than you running all of these events that you do in one day. And I read that, you spell busy, best unique strategies for you. So how do you help women who are, they're running companies, they're trying to run their home, they're trying to make dinner, they're trying to be part, maybe go get a facial and paint and, spark their own creativity, whatever it is. How do you help them fit all of that in without this feeling of overwhelm?
Right. Well, it mostly comes down to, what are you here to do? And when you're confused about what you're supposed to be doing, then that's where you get in trouble. Once you're very clear about what you're supposed to be doing, then it becomes very clear what to say yes to and what to say no to. And you're able to have, I just have the same 24 hours as everybody. I'm not necessarily more busy than anybody else. I just get a lot done with the minutes I have. So I like to remind everybody that in a lifetime, you're going to spend about 2.5 years driving a car, 5 years waiting, 6 years eating, 24 years in bed, 3.5 years in the bathroom, and 8 months opening junk mail, and that's not including anything online. So, that there's just all kinds of hours that are just getting frittered away. And when you actually get intentional and purposeful about what you're trying to accomplish and what you are supposed to be doing with your life, I always say, Frankie, when God strung together your 3 billion base pair of DNA, He did it in a particular way. Without you here on earth, we would miss you. We wouldn't have you. We wouldn't have all the gifts and talents you bring. And that's true for everybody. We need you. We need you to be at your best. And so your job is to say, I am unique. I am not like Marnie. I am not like Frankie. I'm not like anybody else. I'm just my unique me. And I need to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing here on earth and get busy doing it. And then once you have that, then you aren't just always busy. I always say, I take one day a week completely off. I take one day a week where I rest. I don't work. When work comes to mind, I think, yep, that'll work. That'll be fine tomorrow. I'll think about that then.
So you're able to do that.
It takes a lot of work for me to do that. I work to rest, but on my rest day, I truly rest. And what's beautiful about that is on that day, I'm busy resting. you know? So, it's all how you define the word busy.
Well, what does resting mean to you? I'd like to know.
What does it mean to me?
Yeah, are you cooking? Are you baking? Like, what are you doing when you're resting?
Yeah, so I define rest as not doing the things that I would define as work. So that's how I define rest. So if I wanna paint, for example, for me, running on an elliptical is not work. I find that highly invigorating and enjoyable. So that for me, it would be fine. But if I was going to go over to the restaurant and redo, the menu boards, that would be work. So, and if I can't take a Sunday, I just take a different day. But I do take one day a week. I figure if God says we needed it, I figure it's probably important.
What kind of a restaurant do you guys have?
Well, remember, we're in a small town now. So this is one of those funny restaurant signs that you read in a small town. So we have Mexican and Italian and subs, so that you and all of your family can come and have whatever you're hungry for.
Wow.
But we bought it, they'd had it for 14 years when we bought it, and now we've had it for 12 years, and it is just a fantastic little restaurant. We have people come from all over. People sometimes they fly into a city that's 4 hours from us. They'll make the drive just for M&K food because they just love it so much. So people come from all over for our food.
Okay, and what's the name of your town?
It's called War Road. War, just like two words, war and road. War Road, Minnesota. And actually, now that I've said that, and now that you know me, you're going to hear about my town a lot because we are frequently in the winter the coldest place in the country.
Okay.
Now
I know where not to go in the winter time.
Oh, that's Marnie. She's so cold today.
We're heading off to a commercial break, and while we're doing that, you Google Lore Road, Minnesota. And maybe you can even find the restaurant, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay close. Don't go away. We're counting on you.
Don't stop.
That's right, don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Girlfriended is on TogiNet. Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, with your hosts Patty Wyatt and Lisa Jernigan. This show is your chance to share, learn, laugh, and connect with other women. The Girlfriended principle was born out of loss.
Lisa had recently had her mother pass away from cancer, and my mom was murdered. A man just walking into a room and started a 23-second shooting spree.
I think one of the things we both realized going through those tragedies that you can be extremely okay and be extremely sad.
Check out girlfriended.com and then be a part of Girlfriended, the radio show. Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
You know, your boyfriend or your husband or whatever, they don't totally understand that emotional side to them like another woman does. And I think that's so important just to have somebody that you go, she gets me.
Check out the website, girlfriended.com. Don't miss Girlfriended with Patty Wyatt and Lisa Jernigan. Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on toginet.com.
And we're back. We're back with Marnie. We you know, are you warm? I hope you're warm. We were talking about the coldest place on earth pretty much, but we're back. And I do want to go to Marnie's restaurant, don't you? It sounds like a lot of fun. And just before we move on, I have to ask you, Marnie, is there a Chinese restaurant in town?
There is, and you know what, Frankie? They just recently added a buffet, which is so fun. So one of the things that I do is I travel a lot, and in my Kitchen Shortcuts book, I talk about one of the shortcuts I use for food for the family when I'm traveling or even by myself is these buffet restaurants. It's so great. They let you actually take a box and fill it up, and then they just weigh it and charge you per ounce how much you're going to. So what I do is when I'm traveling, I love Chinese restaurants because they have wonderful cooked vegetables.
Yeah.
And so you can go through and just load up on cooked vegetables. Some of them have a grill where they do it. And then at the American buffets, they're wonderful for their cold salads, for their salad bars are just fantastic. So it's a wonderful way to get food fast but really healthy on the road. So yes, our local Chinese restaurant added a buffet, and I'm so excited.
Great tips. I love that. No, the reason I asked you, because every small town I've ever lived in or been through has a Chinese restaurant. And it has to be because of the railroad, I'm guessing, that they started up, you know?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love Chinese food, though. That's probably, if I could only pick one to keep forever, I'm sure I'd pick Chinese.
I like Thai food. Thai has to be my most favorite, but I'll go Chinese after that.
Okay.
But that was kind of funny. So, you know, you talk to women, you talk to them about success, and you know, hopefully the people who are listening today, they're going to get a sense of how to be unstoppable. Because it doesn't, you know, just because you go through something bad doesn't make you unstoppable. What makes you unstoppable is going through it and picking yourself up and not staying in victim and moving forward with life. I mean, you could have been a victim. Oh my God, my house flooded. Oh my God, I lived through a tornado. Oh my God, you know, all these things happened to me. But you're not a victim. You're not a victim at all. You're out, you know, you picked up and you said, no, not going to stay there. I got too much to do, and moved on. You know, you're a mom, and you have all these demands. So what is it that people need to know about picking up and moving on and not staying in their victim?
Well, I mean, I think early on you said, you know, why did that happen to me? You mentioned that earlier, that people say that, oh, why did that have to happen to me? and I think an aunt of mine one time was in the hospital, and somebody said, "Don't you ever ask yourself, why did this happen to me?" And she said, "No, I asked myself, why not me? It's happened to better people than me. Why not me? And what am I going to do about it?" And so I think that perspective is, critically important. I was, just a few minutes ago, I was writing I do a weekly e-zine to my group, and if you want to get that, just go over to Marnie.com and,
well, give out your particulars while we're there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just Marnie. It's easy. MARNIE, Marnie.com. That's it.
Perfect.
All kinds of great stuff over there. Free stuff and the ebooks and stuff are over there, too. But I was writing to my group, and I just wrote, that last week on my way to an out-of-town speaking engagement, just during the drive that I was going there, I spoke to a friend whose college-age son had just come through a second surgery for a collapsed lung. I spoke to my sister-in-law, whose husband was just diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. I spoke to a friend who was letting me know that my missing friend, who had been missing for 12 days, had been found, but she was in the hospital in bad shape. And I spoke to another friend who told me that my other friend's baby boy had just been declared brain dead.
Oh, dear.
So, it's like I was going to speak, and what I was going to speak on was joy. I was going to speak on how, it's the holidays now. Emmanuel means God with us, and Emmanuel means joy, and I was going to go speak on joy. And how do you feel joy after you just get that much bad news? Just a boom, boom, boom. And it wasn't me, but it was people who were very close to me, and I was feeling their pain. And so when I get that much bad news, I just talk to God about it. And I mean, that's the beautiful pleasure that we have, is to know that there is a God and that He loves us and that He can bring something good out of everything. And so that's what I did with all of that pain. And I went and I spoke on joy, and I meant it. And I was full of joy, and I still am. And I just always encourage you that we were never really built to bear the weight of all these burdens, that we were built to release them to a God who can actually do something about them. And so that's what I do, and that's what I teach people to do.
That's great, because, it almost feels disrespectful in a way. At first, to think about, I'm going to talk about joy, and I just heard the most horrendous news about 4 of my friends. But do we all need to wear that? And, because I've had a number of shows lately with the theme kind of, am I my brother's keeper? And not in a religious sense, but in the sense of, we all live in this world, and to see somebody hurt and starving and homeless, wherever they might be, that affects me. That affects me.
Right, exactly.
And it hurts me. And so, but do I bring all this, negative into this? No, I have to bring the positive. And the positive is that we can help. There's stuff that we can do. And if we're having a blessed life right now, because it could turn on us, then we have to be grateful for that and be thankful that that we have that and share that joy with other people.
Right.
So,
and I think even to look at the hard things that happen and to assess them and assign a value to them, that they are a blessing, because even though you might not be thankful for them, ever.
Right.
I think often later on, when we look back, we're actually really are thankful for those things. We become thankful because we can see how we grew there, who we met there. My husband just this morning, we were talking about a few years ago, we decided to go vegan as a couple, as a family. And we would have never done that, except that we own this store. And at this store, we have a bookstore. And in the bookstore, there's a book called Eat to Live. And my husband one day had ran a report about the bookstore, and he had noticed that this book had sold like far exceeded the sales of any other book in our bookstore. Yeah, and so he bought it, and he read it, and he's like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. You got to read this. So we read it, and we went vegan. And he said, we're so thankful for owning Solutions, because look at that. We changed our entire future by changing what we eat, because we understood what it said. So I think everything that comes into our life, no matter if it's a business, if it's a person, if it's a trial, if it's whatever, there's something that we're going to come out better just for having been there. And of course, we would never pick it that way, We'd never pick to learn from the hard things, but we don't get to pick. We just get to walk through it.
But that's kind of, what I was saying at the beginning of the show with these unstoppable people is that they go through this stuff. And I've had people on who, were abducted and their husband was murdered and they were raped and they were, taken for 5 days and ended up having to get themselves free. I've had my friend Shirley, whose son Corey died of leukemia. He had it when he was 3 and he died by the time he was 9. And, he would go and visit heaven before he died. And Jesus would say, you have to go back, Corey. Like, we're not ready for you yet. Just go back. Wait till you're ready. We'll call on you. And, but he saw his grandpa and he saw his, uncle, and he didn't even know those people. And, and his dog who had died, and he met his dog there. So, afterwards, Shirley got to write this book and she got to help grieving mothers everywhere get through it because of her amazing son and his experience. And heartbreaking? Absolutely. Did I cry? Yeah. Would I want it to happen to my kids? No. But, she learned and she grew from it. And so did, Deb, who went through that horrific experience. They didn't stay in victim. They said, what can I do now? What can I do so that nobody else goes through this, or that other people who have gone through this can benefit from my experience? And that's what makes people like you unstoppable. These things happen.
Yeah. I remember several years ago, I was down and I couldn't get up. I just was so sad all the time. I just couldn't, I just couldn't figure out how to be happy. I just was sad. And one day I just had this recognition that I had a lot of self-pity going on. Mm-hmm. And I've just come to call self-pity just the mother of all troubles, because it comes to us when we are down. Self-pity never attacks you when everything's going right. Mm-hmm. When everything's going right, you don't worry about feeling sorry for yourself. You feel great. You maybe feel sorry for other people who aren't as great as you, but you don't feel sorry for yourself. But self-pity comes when you already have other blows that have just struck you. And then you get this blow that's called self-pity, but it comes sneakily. It comes sneaking in as if it's going to help you. It's going to help me to, sit in despair when these 4 people talk to me on the way to the speaking engagement. Just sit and feel miserable for them and with them. Okay, it's great for me to be with them in their pain, for me to be compassionate, for me to actually experience their pain, even for me to pray with them, for me to extend love, and for me to care deeply about what's going on. But it does nobody any good for me to feel sorry for them or for myself.
Exactly. I mean, I know, I've watched your videos, Marnie, and just your presence, you light up from the inside out. And I know that your presence, they feel that love coming from you. And I think that's all they need, really, that's all anybody needs when they tell us this stuff is, some comfort, to acknowledgement. You listened, you validated their feeling, and you said, yeah, I hear you, and it's horrible and it's going to be better. And, it doesn't mean that your day has to be worse because of it. And I think too often we do deflect to the negative. It's very, very easy for us to do that. And wearing that blanket of self-pity feels very comfortable for a little while. We've all experienced that. And you're right. It is easy, especially when you're tired and overwhelmed and things haven't been going well. It can drive you, it can, it's easier for it to insinuate itself into your life. And sometimes it's not easy to get up. It's not. But that's what makes you unstoppable, is because eventually you do get up. And we're going to go to break in just a little bit, but I know probably even it's more difficult, especially in that little town of yours, in the north, because I live in Canada. We go through the winter where we experience sad. And, there's no sunshine. And that really affects people, their psyche. And we go for days without it. And it can get, the February blues. I mean, it really is the February blues. You get really down because of it.
Yeah. Well, it'd be good when we come back if we can talk about grief just for a couple minutes.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, we're going to come back. 30 seconds? Okay. Well, we got 30 seconds. Great.
Well, you know what, though? You had said something that I can just address in that amount of time, because, you said that what people need is just, somebody to listen, and that's true. And then just to refocus again on the bigger picture that there is a God and that He loves you. I mean, that's what we really need when we're down. Is that
Okay.
bigger picture.
Yeah, you're right. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that and grief, like you said. Let's do that. Just stay tuned, stay close. We're coming right back.
Don't stop.
That's right, don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Do holidays and celebrations get you down and leave you feeling frazzled? Then join Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon, 11 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Sandy will help you discover the secrets to having the celebrations you've always dreamed of while adding fun and meaning to your life. From Valentine's Day to Christmas to special family events, Sandy Fowler will show you how to put the fun and meaning back into those special days by taking a look at what we can do to turn the upcoming holidays into cherished memories and show us how to allow it to intertwine with everyday life. For more on the show, Sandy, and to receive Sandy's Holiday Happiness booklet, go to heartfilledholidays.com. Then get set to discover the secrets to creating happy holidays and happy everydays by joining Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time on TogiNet.com.
And we're back. Thank you for sticking around. Marnie's still here. I'm grateful for that. She hasn't flown off yet. Marnie, we were just talking about grief. You wanted to talk about grief when we came back. What is it that you wanted to say about it?
Well, I think that the main thing that happens with grief is that it is a true phenomenon. You can't just say, I choose not to feel grief. I mean, it is it is as real as getting a flu bug. I mean, you can't just decide not to have the flu when you get the flu. Now, there are things that you can do to get better as quickly as possible, but you can't just talk your way out of it or have a cheery attitude over it. You know what I mean? It's like...
That would be masking it. You have to go through a process.
Exactly. You're not really dealing with it. You're just pretending you're dealing with it.
Right.
And so the important thing with grief is to, and it's called the success cycle. Let's just talk about that for a minute as it applies to grief and then as it applies to life. So the success cycle, if you can envision in your mind a little circle, and this is you on the circle, and you're just making progress, and then all of a sudden you get stuck. Something in your life makes you stuck. It might be grief, it might be a setback, it might be a disaster, it might just be not knowing what to do next. Whatever it is, it stops your progress because you're stuck. And then, after a period of time, however long, you get unstuck. And then you keep going until you get stuck again. Okay? So this circle, and that's the process of the success cycle. It just goes progress, stuck, progress, stuck, unstuck, progress. You know, it keeps going round and round like that. So my goal is to help people get unstuck as quickly as possible. Now, is it possible to never, ever get in a traffic jam? No, I mean, at some point you're going to get in a traffic jam. If you live in any kind of city or do any kind of traveling, you're going to be in a traffic jam. But you don't have to stay stuck in a traffic jam. You just have to wait it out and get to the...
But I think it's important to be stuck. I think it's important to get stuck. It's a time to evaluate.
Absolutely. It's not a bad thing. And so when we recognize that it's part of the success cycle to get stuck, it's part of the success cycle to experience grief when you have a major loss. That's okay. And when you have a major loss, I think the most important thing is to actually grieve it out for the reality of what it is. So, for example, my friend lost a son, and she defined it this way, and I've adopted this myself, and I love it because it's so true. She said, I feel kind of like if I had my arm cut off. I would never for 1 minute in my entire life say, oh no, it's fine. My arm is not there, but that's fine. But I would learn to live without it. And I could even become successful in my life without it. And I could be happy in my life without it. But would I ever say, oh, I don't miss it, or I would have picked to have it cut off? Never. So that's kind of the difference between a healthy grief and the kind of grief that either you ignore or the kind of grief that just disables you for the rest of your life.
And I don't know if you can measure, grief and if it's a sibling or a parent or a child. But I have to imagine that losing a child is the worst grief as a mom that I could think about experiencing. Because we just love our children so unconditionally. Like there's just something about our kids, that kind of love that is so protective.
Yeah. And I think especially the stories that, we all know people who've lost their children and they knew that it was a painful death. And I think that is, that has to be just right up there with the hardest thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, Marnie, the holidays, let's get joyful. The holidays are coming. Yay!
Yeah, they are.
And you have a book about the holidays, or you talk about holiday balance, right? How to make them peaceful and stress-free and enjoyable. And I get a little stressed sometimes at the holidays because I've got 7 kids with 7 partners, and now we've got the grandkids. And you want your house to look great, but you know that people are coming and they're going to mess it up. But I'm one of those people. I have to cook everything from scratch. I want it to be great. But I was in a motorcycle accident a number of years ago, and as a result of that, I have chronic pain. And so if I stand for too long or do stuff for too long, I'm not enjoying life anymore. I'm in a lot of pain. So, what kind of advice do you have for somebody like me?
Okay. Well, first of all, I love that. I love that you know who you are and what you love, and that's important. And I do a holiday planning boot camp, and it's just available over at Marnie.com. And what it is you sit down with this boot camp book, and I'm there with you on MP3, so you can listen to the segments. And you just take some time and you just kind of go through and analyze the 8 different aspects of Christmas, or not Christmas, but the whole holiday season, really. And you go through and you just say, where am I feeling confident, and then where am I feeling weak? And then at those weak points, you just shore everything up so that you can have, I think of it like a wheel, and there's like 8 different spokes in that wheel. And where you have something that's a weak point, what happens there is that every time your wheel goes around during the holidays, your life goes around, you go to sunk like that, or maybe you have 3 weak points, then you're going to sunk. You're not really, and it all feels really bad then. But it isn't all bad. You actually just have a couple weak points. And so if you can identify those out, shore those up a little bit, make some good decisions, and then you can go forward and enjoy your holidays. So let's do an experiment together first, or a little exercise together, okay? So everybody ready? So if you're driving, don't shut your eyes. But otherwise, if you want to just shut your eyes for a moment and imagine that it is December 31st. It's about 11:15 p.m. on December 31st. And you're crawling into bed exhausted. It has been a long month, a long holiday season, and much has transpired. And right now, as you're crawling into bed on December 31st, you're thinking, this month has been fill in the blank with whatever you want to be thinking that night. And so what you're doing right now is you're starting with the end in mind. And so instead of just letting the month transform before your eyes and just having everything happen the way it's going to happen, what you're doing right now is you're making a conscious choice. I really want to experience something in particular this holiday season, and I wonder what that is. So, Frankie, for you, I'm going to give you a chance to answer in just a moment what you put in the blank. For me, I want to feel like this month has been so much fun. That's what I want. Okay? What did you have in the blank?
Yeah, it's been an inspiring month for me. It's just
inspiring. Isn't that a great word?
Yeah, it really has.
And some of you, when we were doing that, you were thinking relationship building. I just wanted to have time to build relationships with my families, or whatever you wanted. And again, this is where it comes back to my training as always unique. Just because mine was fun or yours was inspiring, Frankie, doesn't mean the listeners is going to be that. Everybody will have their own emotion that they want to experience that night. And then, you guys, what we get to do is during the next several days or weeks here, we get to actually work toward that goal. And everything that isn't working towards that goal becomes secondary.
Gotcha.
That's how we make decisions. Okay? So here's a statement you need to memorize and put it across your forehead. Never forget this. Every time I say yes to something, I have said no to something else. Mm-hmm. And every time I say no to something, I have said yes to something else. So now that you know what your main priority is, you'll be able to say no to something in order to say yes to that. And this is going to help you to really progress toward your goal and to come out having a wonderful season instead of just feeling run over the entire time.
I love that. And not just for the season, for your life. I mean, really, this is time management here. Big time. Right?
Yeah, start with the end in mind. I love the principle, start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And, actually, I do it for
But the yeses and the no's. The yeses and the no's are important.
Oh, and that phrase helps me so much because I always used to feel like saying no was really, just the worst thing I could do, because nobody asks you to do something if they don't want you to. Of course they want you to, or maybe they even need you to. And so saying no feels really bad until you realize that if I say yes to you, I have to say no to my daughter, or I have to say no to this other thing that's really, so much more important. And what we find is that because, again, everybody on Earth has a reason for being here right now. Mm-hmm. The work that needs to get done is going to get covered. You don't have to do it all. It's okay to relax and to say the most responsible thing for me to do right now is to feel irresponsible by saying no to you so I can be responsible.
And something I learned a long time ago, and it was in sales actually, and people who get very despondent from the no's is that you're going to get 10 no's and then you're going to get a yes. So don't get upset about the no's. Make it a game. It's going to be no, 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 yes, no, 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 yes. That's how life goes, right? Exactly. And it always works out that way. And so you're right. You get to prioritize. And just because what's really important to you isn't that important to me, that's okay. It's really important to you. And I have things that are important to me that need those yeses maybe a little bit more. So that's okay.
Yeah, if I have a message and encouragement for you, it's to be uniquely yourself, to go ahead and give yourself permission to be fully you, because we need you. And of course, you're not going to look like everybody else then, and that's kind of where the uncomfortable part comes. But we need you to be fully you.
You have been listening to Marnie Swedberg, the great sage. I'm going to say Marnie Swedberg. She's been with us today on Mission Unstoppable, and you're going to want to go over to www.marnie.com. There's, like she said, there's lots of freebies, lots of advice, lots of things that you can download, and why wouldn't you go there? Come on, hurry, go, quick. Marnie, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been really just such a pleasure and a blessing to meet you. And I do hope that we will continue, and I'm going to get to come to your little town and eat at your little restaurant. It's going to be exciting. You'll see me there.
That'd be fun.
You'll see me there.
Fun. Well, thanks for having me. It's so fun to be here.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, folks, for listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio.
Don't stop.
When the chips were down, they didn't stop. Stories of people who, when the odds were against them, turned defeat into victory. You've been listening to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. See you next time, and always remember...
Don't stop.